Hello everyone, happy April 1st. Today I have something very special planned. I want to talk about an animal that likely many of you have never heard of. But that's because mainstream paleontology has gone out of its way to hide the existence of this creature. It is a monster of unfathomable power, that's very existence breaks our understanding of what Pleistocene Eurasia was even like. We've all heard of the mighty beasts like the mammoth, the cave bear, the cave lion, hyenas, and even rhinos. But there's one animal that sat at the top of the food chain for millions of years, and it has largely gone completely covered up by science. So let's get into it and talk about Magdeburg Unicorn, the true king of the Ice Age mammoth steppe. Also known as the Magdeburg Unicorn, this animal was first described in the 17th century by Otto von Guericke, the mayor of Magdeburg, who wrote in a newspaper article about finding some peculiar ancient animal bones in a nearby cave. He later even had his findings published in a book, but later much of his findings would be discredited by mainstream science. However, this cave was known on the down low for hundreds of years before this. And in fact, there's even a legend about witches having had something to do with the bones that were found down there. But you don't have to rely on magic to truly understand the power of this creature. And unfortunately, thanks to the cover-up by mainstream paleontology, that's about all we know about the initial discovery of this fossil. Now it's time for me to paint the picture for you that mainstream paleontology doesn't want you to see. Ice Age Europe and Asia was the hunting ground of one of the most dangerous animals that have ever existed on Earth. We all talk about T-Rex or Smilodon or the short-faced bear as being some of the most dangerous animals ever. But the fact is, all of these animals didn't have to compete with this monstrosity. And if they had, extinction likely would have loomed for them fairly soon. In fact, for a couple of those that I mentioned, we'll get to that in a little bit. The Magdeburg Unicorn is a parasodactyl, the group that includes rhinos, tapirs, and horses. Now I know what you're thinking, Steve, all these animals are herbivores. How is this a apex predator of unfathomable power? Well, Tim, let me explain. For you see, sometimes in evolution, you see exceptions to the rule in animals that are closely related. The best examples I can think of right off the top of my head are things like pandas being exclusive herbivores despite being related to other bears, and therizinosaurs being herbivores despite being related to other theropods. Universally, the majority of both groups that these animals come from are devout in one side of things. So it does happen in nature. It's believed that this animal evolved for carnivory as things like proboscideans moved out of Africa and into Europe and Asia and started providing a bountiful food source that other carnivores couldn't take advantage of because they weren't powerful enough. There were other carnivores like lions and hyenas, but they couldn't take down pachyderms. Unfortunately for them and everything else on the landscape, there was very little that the Magdeburg Unicorn couldn't take down. Now when you look at this animal, logically, a lot of people would assume that this was a marine creature because of the fact that its hind limbs had completely disappeared. All the mammals that we know of who don't have hind limbs at all, it's normally because of this reason. However, not the Magdeburg Unicorn. This animal's front limbs were so powerful that it could run at a full sprint, charging forward and putting its horn out to skewer whatever it was trying to kill. However, don't be mistaken on this. It could still swim and was even able to use its horn to hunt underwater as well. This powerful predator that was originally specialized to hunt mammoths and other proboscideans would eventually become so powerful that it would even have a hand in our own evolution as well. We have oftentimes been given the blame for the extinction of the Neanderthals. However, I say nay, it was this thing that actually drove our close cousins to extinction. After all, Neanderthals were the only other group of animals that were directly competing with the Magdeburg Unicorn for mammoths. And this creature was likely the reason for a lot of our ancestors' hardships, being responsible for a bottleneck in the human population that nearly wiped our species out entirely. And in fact, it wasn't the humans following mammoths that brought Homo sapiens into North America, but it was actually us trying to run away from the mighty Magdeburg Unicorn that was trying to destroy us. They had at this point recognized us as one of their main competitors, and we were essentially targets for the most powerful animal on Earth. Imagine being a hunter in Ice Age Europe at that time, stalking through the forest at the edge of a clearing, and then all of a sudden you hear what sounds like a demented moose. And as you hear the thundering steps coming towards you, you look up and see something straight out of your worst nightmare. I think it is very accurate to say that we are lucky that we are even alive at all. But this animal wasn't done yet. It followed us into North America, and it would be responsible for one of the greatest mass extinctions of the past several million years. It would not be humans, but this thing that caused the extinction of several different Ice Age animals in North America. They continued to hunt the proboscideans, but they would turn their attention to animals like saber-toothed cats, the dire wolf, the short-faced bear, giant ground sloths, even my beloved glyptodons. Nothing was safe from this creature's bloodlust, and the entire northern hemisphere was now its hunting ground. So if this creature really is everything that I said it was, why isn't it around today? Well, the fate of the king of the Ice Age actually is a direct result of the work of a single man, the world-renowned paleontologist and NFT bro, Dr. Jack Horner. For you see, this animal didn't go extinct at the end of the Ice Age. It caused the extinction at the end of the Ice Age. And in fact, this creature survived right up until 1951, where at the age of 5 years old, Jack Horner managed to convince the US military to tactically nuke every single one of these Magdeburg unicorns and stop them from eradicating our species. Our ancestors had lived for eons in the shadow of this monster, and finally we had had enough, and we just needed someone to give that push to tell us what needed to be done. This is the face of a man who has single-handedly saved our race from extinction. And he continues to challenge the scientific truths that he knows that mainstream paleontology is covering up. But unfortunately, what Dr. Horner couldn't know was that no matter what we did, there was no way that we could truly eradicate the Magdeburg Unicorn from existence entirely. For you see, its influence had spread beyond the stars. You see, unknown to the general public, there has been an alien life form in the form of tiny creatures that have come from a planet called Kaimere. This cloud of microbial life is designed to replicate and transport DNA back to its own home world and replicate the life there. And unknown to all of us until now, that happened with the Magdeburg Unicorn hundreds of thousands of years before we could have done a single thing about it. So the truth is, the Magdeburg Unicorn is still out there, and if it ever gained the technology to be able to transport itself back to Earth, our race could very well be completely wiped out. We thank Dr. Jack Horner for his brilliance in saving our people, and hope that he is still with us when the time comes again. Every once in a while, if you look closely, you can find in different small artifacts remains of something that looks peculiar. I found this sculpture, and I believe it may have actually been a depiction of a baby Magdeburg unicorn before its horn grew in. It is one of my favorite pieces in my paleontology collection, because it's all I have to showcase the truth about what had once ruled our planet. I want to thank everyone for sticking with me to this point in the video, as I unpack the true lore of the history of our planet. If you all enjoyed this, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like and shared it around to make everyone aware of the truth behind this remarkable creature that most people don't even know ever existed. And if you want to learn more about what happened next for this animal on Kaimere, go check out Keenan Taylor's channel, where he talks about what this biblical level monster did once it arrived on that planet with all of the different life forms that are there.
You know you're both going to hell, right?
Yes, well, until then, have a good one, everybody.